This is Kevin Pruitt with another episode of Rising Tide Startups. And my guest today is Adala Bolto. Adala, thank you for joining us on Rising Tide.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Or maybe I should just say marhaba. Ahlan wa sahlan. That's right. We were talking a little bit offline, and I used every Arabic word I knew in about one sentence, and beyond that, I was lost. So, but it's great to have you. Great to have you. Share your bio a little bit with our listeners.
So my name's Adala. I live in Australia in Sydney, and I've recently, in the last probably 18 months to 24 months, have been operating my new business concept that is in the fitness world. It's a boutique studio for women. We focus on HIIT and strength, and the business is really it was an unarticulated need that I thought the market did need, but nobody was really screaming out for. To cater for women that want more premium, and a fitness brand that really spoke their language. So the nickname or the way I describe it is almost like the Sephora for women when it comes to a fitness brand. I'm very passionate about fitness, but I'm probably more so passionate about solving problems and business and evolving and seeing what else we can create in that space.
And a little family background,
I have 2 children. I should remember these ones. I have 2 children. I have Hannah and Layla. My daughters are 16 and 15 years old, and we all live in Sydney, Australia. They are now finishing school. One of them is almost finishing school, and we've lived in Australia I've lived here for 30 years. I was born overseas in Lebanon, and I have a very big family. There's 12 of us. I'm number 10.
Wow.
There's been a lot of life learned experiences through their eyes and through their experiences, as well as, it's been great. A lot of travel.
So walk us through the history. I mean, so you were in the fitness space before you opened ZADI. Is that correct? I mean,
Yep. So my professional, I guess, background is I was quite young when I was in the workforce. I was doing things in the sales and retail and business and HR, and anything to do with people is where I was really focused on, and did study those things more closely. I did land myself an interest in fitness after having my 2 children. Decided that I needed to get fitter. That's very common thing that women will just go back and try and get fit again. And I found a real alignment to something that I really believe is a helpful profession, but also I can use my people skills. So I did get into the fitness industry as a trainer. I taught every class you can think of, boxing and body pump, all those Les Mills programs, if anyone's familiar with those. Became a one-on-one trainer, had a massive client database, and worked almost full-time hours for many years. But the business side of things was always there in the sales. So I became the studio manager or the club manager for a few years. From there, I bought my own gym. It's a big, a female-only gym here in Australia called Fernwood Fitness. And I ran and operated that successfully for another 4 years. At that time, the idea of female fitness was really missing in my mind. So much was missing from it, the messaging, the branding. Nobody was doing it the way I felt like women would like. If they all got together and collaborated, what they'd come up with is not what was available. So I came up with a concept to create what I've created, and actually teamed up with my ex-boss, who's the CEO of the company that I worked for, and I pitched the idea, got the investment, and got started.
And off you went. So tell me, was there a little bit of a conflict? Because you were actually a franchisee of the gym before, correct? I mean, before you launched ZADI. So
I think in my pitch I did a pretty good job to sell it as a sub brand that won't conflict, because obviously that's the outcome I wanted. Although as we kept working on the project, the conflict of interest was apparent, and it's understandable. So a year and a half, and after launching the first 2 studios, I did sort of start a conversation about how we could possibly part ways and go about business our separate ways, and that's what we did. So I bought the business back and brought on some new investors, so I could focus 100% on the new concept, and my previous business partner can focus 100% on her business.
So I mean, that's how you kind of resolve the conflict of interest issue. But was there also like an internal conflict with you? Like, did you feel a little bit constrained with the
Absolutely.
requirements of the franchise, that you said, I can't do what I want to do by staying in that franchise?
100%. And you picked that up straight away, that would obviously become an issue. I did feel like I was not able to deliver exactly my vision. I wasn't able to make the decisions. There was a lot of compromise and a lot of energy going to that. So absolutely, yeah, I felt that it was really came to the decision of do it properly or just don't do it at all.
Yeah.
But don't do it half, you're not really finishing it off. You're just doing it to tick some boxes. So I really wanted to give it everything. And although it was a really hard thing to negotiate, and we were both very happy with the outcome, and it was a right decision. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just maybe the entrepreneurial genetics that you if you have a vision and you really have the drive and the discipline to see that vision out, you cannot operate within the constraints of something else. So it's very difficult to cast your vision within, underneath the thumb, I guess, of the franchise that you were in before.
Because the true essence of what you're trying to achieve as an entrepreneur or someone with a vision that's trying to bring it to life is that. And if there's anything that conflicts with it, you're no longer living a purpose. You're just doing a job. And you're just ticking boxes and making sure you're pleasing people. It becomes a lot of politics. And if the driving force is being able to live your purpose, it's a big conflict, internal conflict every day. So yeah.
Now that makes perfect sense. I can almost picture you as you're working in the previous franchise. I can almost picture you like daily. You have a focus group of whoever you're working with. You're asking them questions and making notes. So what if we were able to do this differently? What would that be appealing to you? Would you go? Would you prefer a gym that did ABC instead of what we're doing here? And I mean, did you have kind of those conversations with people?
Look, I picked up a few new nicknames, and it kind of gave them a little. It shook them up a little bit, because when the people I worked with were working for the other organisation, and they had their ways. And it's usually once an organisation is a certain size, they function in a more of a corporate style.
Yeah.
Well, I've come in with this startup mindset. So what I expect can be done in a week takes normally months. So it was like I was like a bit of a bulldozer. And yeah, picked up a few nicknames that I'm very proud of, because none of those nicknames describe anything negative. It just describes myself. They gave me more confidence and realized that I'm on the right track. And I think it was a good learning experience for all of us. But there were many meetings where it was very interesting times, and I think I was able to drive people to do more than they thought they could, think outside the box a little. So, it was an interesting process. I definitely don't regret it. I think it helped me, now that I do have the freedom to run my ideas independently without much pushback. The pushback and the conflicting sort of views helped me dig my heels in and realize I'm on the right track. It was like a daily challenge.
I mean, I can almost picture, going back to when you were early in the fitness industry and you kind of transitioned to be like a personal trainer. I can picture that the way you trained people, you probably also lead your organization in the same manner. I mean, you probably are, it's kind of tough love. It's that I have a vision for you, and I'm not going to be your best friend. I may be your worst nightmare, but we will get this done together. And when you look back after the fact, you will enjoy the journey for sure. Is that accurate?
So accurate. Yeah, and look, it's because when I'm doing anything, we talked about cooking earlier. I'm focused on the outcome. The process is the process, but I'm really focused on the outcome. So when you're focused on the outcome, I think you automatically can visualize that outcome so well, and you want that so much for the person you're helping. If you're training them, they really want to lose weight. There's going to have to be some tough love, because the reason they are where they are is because they really haven't been facing the real issues.
Right.
So the girl that will remind you of those real issues. The hard part is reminding myself. I the bad thing is I do give myself a lot of tough love
Oh,
on a
for
daily
sure.
basis.
Yeah.
And that I've got to manage, I think, a little bit better, because it's constant and it's what drives me and makes me successful, but it sometimes can be a bit too much, and I should just take the wins and give myself a little bit of a tap on the shoulder.
A little
like,
break. I mean, I'm sure that's true of people that have that disposition in their personality types. Is often they're the hardest on themselves, than they would even be on anyone else. So walk us through
which is what gives me permission to sort of give people the tough love, because in my mind I'm thinking, you think that's tough, I put myself through heaps worse.
Exactly.
So I never actually see it as being tough. I'm giving them a lot more kindness and time and patience than I would normally give myself.
I can just see you turning to them and going, you ought to see me when I'm mad.
So I guess that goes straight to the outcome and not the process, which is just get there.
Yeah. Well, walk us through kind of the launch of ZADI. So you were still kind of a franchise owner, or you were still running a franchise and you were running these in parallel to each other for a while?
I was a franchise owner, Kevin, and I was we'd already discussed the exit strategy. It just sort of obviously takes a bit of time to sell a business. But mentally, I was all 100% focused on launching ZADI. And the businesses were alike in a way, except in size. So ZADI is a boutique studio. It is designed to give women that real premium, personalized experience where we can give them the no fluff, the actual proper steps to get results. I brought on an expert exercise scientist who's very well respected here in Australia to make sure we follow the FIT principle. And my biggest the biggest thing I didn't want to compromise on is the actual results. I was aware that our brand is going to come across flashy and edgy and sexy and maybe even a little bit superficial. So I made sure the product, when you dig deeper, is one of the best products you'll find in the fitness space. And I'm very passionate about fitness and getting it right as a trainer. So together we came up with how can we deliver not just a female-only space, but I want the female-only fitness programs. So for our bodies, how we recover is different to men. Our needs when it comes to load and repetitions and all those sort of things, and the different workouts that we should be doing on different days are very different. And obviously, so that was the main focus. And then everything else that we put in, like the technology and the vibe and the atmosphere, and worked with that concept. But it wasn't the most important thing. It was really getting that product right. So it has it's not a fad or a trend. It's going to last a lifetime and continue to evolve.
Right. I mean, I really like the name. It's a very catchy name. So tell us the genesis. What's the origin story of the name of the gym?
I was probably the last person to catch on how very Middle Eastern ZADI sounded.
For sure.
Background. So a lot of people aligned the name with my look immediately. And I caught on much later on when I presented it at a conference, and everyone's like, what does it mean in Arabic? I'm like, oh yeah, it sounds like an Arabic word, but it's not at all. My previous business partner had it picked out for a different project, which wasn't used. And it just made its way in a list when we were going through a list of possible names. And I was just skimming through down the page and went, this one, because I always had a vision for a nightclub gym. And I just thought that just sounds like a nightclub. It just sounds cool, and it's short and sweet, and if I pictured like a female superhero and we called her ZADI, it's very believable and very strong. So it just ticked every box in my mind for the vision of a strong woman, an edgy nightclub, all the little different elements that I had in my head. And it was like a 20-second decision, Kevin. It was like that one.
Well, like, as you well know, I mean, every Arabic word that like ends in the sound E makes it possessive. It's my something. So you've got to come up with a better story than this. It means, yes, that means my sacred journey, or my vision, or my something in Arabic. So make it up. It's like a street word.
I mean, that's how the name came up. But when I said the word, it made me feel powerful. It made me feel like it was a strong name. And immediately I did picture female that just is unstoppable. And I could just imagine that if that was her name, it's a great fit. But yeah, besides that, no, I didn't even pick up that it sounded like an Arabic word. So I have to come up with something.
I mean, I'm picturing Wonder Woman. I don't know about anybody else, but I mean, when you say that word and you cast that vision, it's like, you know, Wonder Woman with all the armor on her or something that
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
sounds strong. So I'm curious. You and I are going to hop on a lift here. We're going to go up 10 floors. You got about 45 seconds. Give me your best elevator pitch for ZADI.
I did prepare this one, but then I threw it out the door.
Throw it
But
out the door.
my best elevator pitch for ZADI is a place where we unleash extraordinary women to feel unapologetic about living their best life on their terms. It's a place where we all have a very unique and aligned sense of self.
So tell me what's the differentiator between this and say other gyms that might cater specifically to women?
It's definitely the culture and the like-minded community of women who want more. And when I say unleashing extraordinary, we don't do ordinary. We don't do anything that's just because everyone else is doing it. In fact, I make a very, very, very conscious decision with everything we do, and our women can see that, to do things differently. So if someone else is doing it like this, we're no longer doing it like this. We're going to find a better way to do it, a ZADI way to do it. And so it's definitely the culture, the brand, and the community and our ethos. Now, obviously, we do deliver our workouts very differently to everybody else. It's a very different atmosphere and vibe. When you're in ZADI, the way people describe how they feel is they strut out of ZADI. They don't walk out. It just makes them feel strong, but not just physically, mentally. Obviously, we're not 24/7 strong women. We do have days where we can be, you know, on a different mindset, and that's okay as well. It's just deal with it. So yeah, so that's the main thing. And I think we're in a very in the fitness industry, we're in a space where fitness and mindset and health are all intertwined. So I see our role at ZADI is to influence young women that are now very, very, very conscious of body image and staying fit. That are, you know, my 16-year-old daughter and her friends. I feel like ZADI was mainly created for that generation that's now coming through, and we're the brand that's going to be speaking their language. We're the cooler, we get what they're thinking brand. So that I don't think exists for females right now, and that's what makes us extremely different to any other female offering.
This can be very difficult for me to frame well as a question because I am a man, I'm an older man, but so how do you help I mean, you know, there's this societal issue with like body image and you know, the perfect, you know, female depicted persona out there or whatever. How do you, I mean, it sounds like you've got almost a holistic, you know, view to help people think of, you know, and it's mindset, it's physical, it's diet, it's all the things that kind of go into play. So how do you help them like develop a healthier view of this? Is that a fair question?
Yeah. I guess our number one job is to build trust and credibility in our space. And when you see a brand that speaks your language, that has a vibe and sort of atmosphere that you are drawn to, and they're conscious of that, you immediately build that trust. So the members that come to us might have a lot of negative understanding of how of body image and what they should be, could be, and what's out there. A lot of it's fake and they know it, but they still get sucked in. So we draw them in with a real sexy, edgy look and the neon lights, but then they realize that we're more than that. You know, it's lose all the misconceptions. It's, let's be honest, if you're not tall and you're not going to become taller, embrace who you are and make the most of what you have and be the best version of yourself. So it's not holistic in a way where we fall into the trap of giving into what's happening, but we just know it's happening and we try and deal with it with each individual to make the most of themselves. So yeah, it's a very empowering thing to just own who you are, make the most of what you've been given, and just drive to become the best, healthiest version of yourself. Yes, you can achieve a better looking physique. And so we'll help you achieve the best physique you can possibly achieve if you're willing to put in the work and actually do it. It can't be done for you.
Yeah. It's really funny the way you phrased that, because I was thinking exactly that, how do you become the best version of yourself? I was literally thinking those words as you were talking about,
Yeah,
how you're helping them.
you've got to own the reason why you are where you are and why you're not happy with where you are and why you want to be somewhere else. Is that really important to you? Are you just being unrealistic and comparing yourself? Because that's really unhealthy. And when we always want what we can't have, and that's not ever going to change about human beings, especially females.
Right.
I mean, I lead this organization and this movement, and I find myself doing it. And that's okay, as long as you've got the self-awareness to know when you're doing it and to correct that behavior and that mindset, to go back to why you're correcting it. It's because you want to get shit done. So you're not going to get shit done spending hours comparing yourself. Let's just focus back on what you should be doing and what you've agreed to do and what you've committed to do. And so that's our take. We just try and get there in a more direct route than to confuse our members with a lot of, and we stick to what we know. We're great at what we do. So we don't bring in other programs and other ideas because everyone's doing things differently. So we don't focus on the competitions. This is what we do, and this is what we're good at. And if you do this, you will achieve those results.
So in the time that you've started ZADI to today, so walk us kind of through the growth of the business. I mean, has it just been just an upward and right moving trend line, or have you seen a little bit of ups and downs since you started? Walk us through it. It's only been a couple of years, right?
It's only been a couple of years, and we were entering a space where, as I said at the start of this interview podcast, that it's an unarticulated need. There wasn't a lineup of women saying, we need a badass boutique studio today. Nobody was saying it. I have been around women and training them for years, and it was a lot of different feedback and things that I heard and saw that made me feel like if we brought all that in a collaboration, this is what it would look like, and women would want this. So that was the number one thing that I focused on. And since then, it was proven to be the case. It was an unarticulated need. Women did flock to ZADI. They did watch that first promo video and went, what is this? I want to know more. And we created that intrigue, and then we just kept doing that. So it was a lot of clever, I guess, putting ourselves in the member's mindset and what is missing, and giving them what is missing, and then delivering a great product to continue that growth. So we managed to do that really well, and we did grow very organically. People came, they tried. Some people were very skeptical, especially in the fitness industry, especially media outlets, especially people that were saying things like, oh, it's not very holistic, it's too harsh, it's too aggressive for a female brand. There was a lot of perceptions, but when they did come in and experience it, people took to it and then started telling each other, and girls were bringing girlfriends, and women were the harshest critics, obviously. And I knew that that's what was going to happen, because you're telling them what they need to know, but they didn't think they needed to know it. So there was a bit of a pushback, like, I don't need this. But then when they come in, they realize they strut out the door, but they weren't strutting out the door before this. So then they come back. And then it's just been such an amazing experience to kind of be like, I knew something you didn't know. And then when you share it, and then your belief starts to become their belief, and then they start telling other people. And that's where I feel warm and fuzzy about this is a real genuine movement and not just another product. And my global view for ZADI is definitely, it's got a place in the world to help women everywhere, to really support the mindset where they might think they're not on the right track, but they actually are, and they need to just believe in themselves. So it hasn't been a challenge after that. The challenge was at the start, working with creatives, going to talk to agencies where they were just shaking their head saying, do we really need another female-only brand? What are you doing? Do you know what you're doing? That was a challenge. But for the consumers, they've been just loving it. Even men that come and visit, they're like, they can see women that they know training in this space. Most of my investors and people that want to buy franchises are men. And they're like, this is genius. Like, hasn't anyone thought that women want this? So no, I'm really pleased. And I think with the whole coronavirus thing, it was a bit of a shock to the system. We were just about to launch franchising. I was in the US, and I spent 3 brief days there because everything was cancelled, and I was speaking at an event. You've probably heard of URSA. I wasn't speaking at URSA, but it was an event prior, and it was all about to kick off, as I like to put it. But it's all on ice at the moment. I'm focusing on some digital solutions for ZADI, which were always part of our vision, but was kind of like down here in the priority order. So
for sure.
kind of just flipped it over, and now it's become a priority, and everything else is sitting underneath, waiting for life to get back to normal, or to the new normal life that we're all waiting for.
That is such a great segue, and I'm gonna kind of I want to shift the script here just a little bit, because you brought up a topic that I think is so timely, and I don't want to sneak up on you. I don't want to throw you a curve here, but I would love for you to take just a second and so speak. And I know that you haven't been in it all that long, but just speak to those that are just either thinking about starting something or have started, a business right here in the, just before the coronavirus, the pandemic crisis that we're facing globally. What were, say, 2 or 3 things that you would tell them as kind of hopeful hints that say, this is how I am dealing with this? Because I mean, I can't imagine anything that got hit harder, maybe the travel industry, but gyms took it right on in the teeth. I mean, they virtually just shut down. So I know you were facing a real difficulty. I love the way that you just said, we took the bottom priority and flipped it up to the top, to adjust. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. I just want you to kind of just speak to our listeners and say, here's 2 or 3 things I would really focus on.
I'm as much as I represent a brand that is all about, getting it done and driving, I do want to be very, very honest and transparent here that it was not easy. It shook me to the core, because you have to kind of mourn the could have beens and the should have beens, and we almost did this and we this close to that, and I still think I'm not 100% at peace with it. However, it does creep up every now and then, and I go back to the reason I've been able to keep going. I did have my moments of, oh well, this is not meant to be, but I think you just have to go through that process of understanding it's happening to all of us, and everybody has a story. There's a should have been, could have been for everybody. I mean, there's people that cancelled their weddings, people that have cancelled so many things. So I came up with the logical way to deal with this is just to deal with what I can do right now, today, to survive. And I'm treating it like a big vacay, Kevin, where all this work that I had lined up is now on hold, and I can shift my energy to new projects. Sometimes I still go back to the morning of, I should have been doing this, why am I doing that? But then just staying focused on these new projects. Speaking to people that are also going through it really does help. So if I have to give any advice that could immediately give you a bit of peace, is knowing that, I don't know, when you know everyone else is going through it too, it's just a bit more comforting. And using this time as an opportunity to work on the things you couldn't work on. So my priority that was down here was probably 1.5 years away from me being able to even touch it. And now I'm given the opportunity to prioritize it. So that's a bonus. So just, every day focusing on those positives, acknowledging the negatives, going through the process, feeling it, dealing with it, get cranky, get angry, get upset, whatever, and then move on.
Get over it.
Get over it. It's just, and my advice is don't give up. Don't give up and think just because it should have been like this. It's sometimes the biggest challenges are the biggest opportunities, and our biggest creations and our best work happens in the time of difficulty. And I know that for a fact, because everything that I have created that has been amazing was difficult, including having 2 children. And that wasn't easy to do. And it was one of the best things I've ever achieved. So taking that mindset, I think, is hard, and I understand that it's easy to say these things. The practical ways to do it is to every day look at the 2 or 3 things that you can achieve, focus on them, and don't worry about everything else. And if you've achieved them, you can go to bed feeling great. And when you do feel down, just acknowledge it. You're human. We're all human.
I love the way that you wrap that up, and just the idea. I mean, I've asked this question to a number of people recently, you know, in our Rising Tide interviews, just about how they're dealing with the crisis. And I think you're the first one that mentioned, that started this off by saying, guys, everybody is going through the same thing. Recognize that it's not just you. It's difficult on everyone equally. You know, I mean, we're all not necessarily equal impact, but certainly nobody's immune, you know,
Nobody.
from the effects of this. And I just really
Yeah.
love the way you just kind of framed that. So
Well, when you have a team and you're the leader, you're pushed into this space. Not only are you dealing with your own business problems and not your whole world being exploding, you have a team of people looking at you saying, what do we do next?
yeah.
And I remember after having my breakdown, and I had one in LA in a hotel room, just wanted to get home. I couldn't believe it, the nightmare. But then when I got back, I didn't speak to my team until I was good and ready. And the first thing I said is, this is like, I know you guys are looking to me for answers, but I'll be very honest. This is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than ZADI. It's bigger than our government. It's bigger than science. We need to know this, number one, and let's just be realistic about what I can and can't do for you today. And we need to work together. I didn't pretend to have all the answers, and I didn't go in there pretending I'm okay. I did say we need to work together, and I'm still going to lead the direction, but we all need to snap out of it and realize we need to take some responsibility, that it's bigger than us.
What a way to wrap up our chat today. I mean, I've got a million questions I could ask you, but what a perfect way to just finish this chat with vision. I mean, I really appreciate that you just kind of wrapped that up and said, okay, I've got to get myself together, and then I've got to go and cast vision to my team, be real with them, be authentic with them, but just absolutely, guys, we will get through this. We are going to fight and get through this. And, you know, people will follow that. They absolutely will follow that vision and that hope and that you cast with them. So I just want to thank you again for just taking the time today. And it's just been a pleasure just to get to know you and to hear your story online. And I'm really excited just to see what ZADI has in its future, especially when we get on the backside of this virus, when it hits, you know, the 2.0 version, after you've had time to tinker with it, sitting there in your living room, you know, and say, how can we make this better? You know, the wheels are always turning. But Adala, thank you so much for just working with us today and just chatting with us today and just doing your part to help all boats rise in a rising tide. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it too.